So maybe you've finished a Learn to Play class and you're ready to ramp up with a brand new team. Or maybe you've been playing Beer League for 10 years and decided you want to go off on your own and do something different. Either way, you need to know the steps to starting a new Beer League team. In this episode of the Beer Leaguer podcast, we're going to talk about starting a new Beer League team. All right, so you are starting a new team. What do you need to know? I mean, obviously you need to have players. You got to get that first off. Hopefully you've gotten that taken care of. Find people. Find them somewhere. Either they're people you know from playing Beer League already, or they're people you've met at Stick and Pucks or Pickups, or you are in a Learn to Play class and, the next step is to create a team to join a regular league. Something. Got to find skaters to fill out a roster. How many skaters you have, that's kind of personal preference. Some people like to have huge rosters of 20-some skaters out there because they know only a certain amount are going to show up. Some people like to have a huge amount of skaters show up. Kind of depends on the team. Make sure that people are on the same page, first off, with that. Also, some people like to have very small rosters because they know, hey, these 10, 11, 12 people are going to show up like every week, and that's all we want. We don't want anybody else. So, figure out that with what you're going to do before you decide you're starting a team. Make sure you have enough people. I've seen a lot of people that try and start teams, and they go, hey, it's me, my 3 buddies, we want to start a team, and they get maybe 1 or 2 other people. They don't have a goalie, and then they wind up not having any team to play on. So, first off, get that figured out. Now that that's out of the way, what other kind of stuff do you need to know for starting a team? So, I've had a lot of questions over the last couple of months from a lot of these beginner-focused videos that I've done of what are some things I need to know for starting teams. So, this is kind of the first part in that series of what do you do to start a team? There's a couple things you need to have when you're starting a brand new team. One, I think the first things you need to have is a team name. I know it sounds dumb. You don't think of that. You think of like all this other stuff. You're probably 20 steps ahead. But you need a team name. That kind of works for a lot of things going forward for figuring stuff out. So you have to figure out a name for your team. A couple things you can ask yourself when trying to figure out a team name. Do you want something that's, easy for people to know? If you want something that's hard for people to say, if you want something that is going to look good on a jersey, or if you want it to be a funny abbreviation, you got to think about logos. We'll get into that. But that's something also to think about with team name. You can also just use real team names that are out there, real professional teams. A lot of people do that. But I will say, be careful if you're doing that with how you're using it. If you're just playing Beer League and, copying an NHL team or something like that, probably shouldn't be a big deal. But if you, call your team the Minneapolis Blackhawks, and you have like full Chicago Blackhawks gear on, and then you decide to start selling stuff or making Blackhawks gear for your team, probably okay, but it can get a little dicey, possibly. So just something to think about with it. If you don't care about doing stuff like that and you're just having the team for Beer League, I've never heard of it being a problem. So just something to think about. So when thinking of a name for your Beer League team, this is something I asked AI to give me some help coming up with Beer League names, because I think we all hear kind of the same couple names a lot of places. Like, I feel like every city has multiple teams called the Mighty Drunks or the No Regret Skis or something like that. There's a lot of those out there. So you can do one of those. But what punched into AI helped me come up with a Beer League team name. And what it told me is there's 3 main categories for team names. And I kind of agree with this. Category 1 is the pun team name. Category 2 is the Beer League humor name. And category 3 is the mascot name. And a couple examples, and I will have many more examples at the end. Many, many more. A couple examples it has for like a pun team name is stuff like the Puck Buddies, or Puck Norris, or Puck Dynasty. Apparently just thinks putting puck into everything makes it punny. But, you get the idea on those. Then it has some of the ideas for the Beer League humor team name is things like the Bench Warmers or the Rusty Blades. These are very very PG versions of these, I will say as well. And then also finally for mascot names is kind of just animals. Really is what it comes up with. So it's got like ice wolves, Arctic bears, rink rats. Rink rats is another one. There's a lot of teams out there that have those. All these kind of have their pros and cons. It's kind of what are you going for? Something that focuses on the mascot is a great thing for logos. If you're having trouble coming up with a logo, or you have like a cool logo that you're starting from and you want a name from that really helps with that. If you want something that's just kind of funny to have, funny to say, great. Pick one of those, humorous names or the punny names or something. But also be careful how far you push this. Some leagues won't let you put anything. I mean, definitely no one's going to let you do anything like explicit, but some leagues, that line of what they allow is different. So be aware of that, of how punny and how explicit you can make those names. I've seen people that really push the boundary with that, and they're fine when they play in certain leagues, but then if they want to go play an out-of-town tournament or something like that, they can't use their jerseys, they can't use their name. So just be aware that not every single place handles this the same way. So if you are hoping to do more with your team than just play in your local league, and you want to go play somewhere else, like I said, playing some out-of-town tournaments or things like that, be aware that if you are doing something that you think is really clever and I'll say cheeky, be aware that might not be accepted everywhere. All right, so you have to come up with your team name. You got your name. Then you got to have a logo, some kind of a logo for your team. There's a couple different ways that you can, make a logo. Right along with having your team name is you need a logo for your team. Not as hard as it sounds. There's really just a couple different ways to go about this. One, you can do like a really simple generic logo. There's a lot of beer league teams out there that just have like some kind of like crossed hockey sticks with a picture of something in it. Whatever the team name is, like a picture of that there. Again, this is where kind of having like the animal or mascot or something like that in the name really just sets this up to be really easy. Or having some kind of a generic like crest or shield that has that name in it, or a picture that has to do with whatever you said for the team name in it. That's another really simple way to do it. Also, some teams just have like a picture of a puck with whatever it is on it, so if you are called like, I don't know, the Bears, you have a picture of you have a puck with like a bear on it, or a bear paw or something. Super easy. You can probably do that yourself. Very easy online. Way to do that. Be thinking about with your logos, be thinking about something that actually is going to look good on a jersey too. So things that are super, super intricate can be tough to put on a jersey and make it look good. So be aware of that. You kind of have to think of all these steps all together. You can do them in steps, but you have to think about them. If you pick a team name that's really hard to have something be associated with it, it might be hard to make a logo for it. If you pick a logo that looks really cool, but it's got really intricate design, it's going to be tough to get that printed off nicely, no matter how you get jerseys made. That's going to be tough to do. So you kind of have to keep all this stuff in mind when you're doing this. It's, again, putting it into steps, but they all do go together. Now, if you don't want to have just a logo like that, like a very generic logo, or no one on your team knows how to do any design, this is a good thing to ask around. Maybe you have someone on your team that secretly has some great Photoshop skills, or maybe you have someone that is actually a graphic designer on your team that you can ask. If you don't, another thing you can do is hire somebody to do it. There's sites out there like Fiverr, if you guys know that. You can hire someone to make a logo, usually for fairly cheap. I would say you can probably get a decent logo on there for under $50 made up for you. Not overtly expensive, and you get all kinds of different results, all kinds of different people on there. You can try and hire someone on other sites. Fiverr's just the one that I know. The people that you are getting your jerseys made from, they might have some sort of logo design or kind of fine polishing of your logo design that they offer, maybe for free. Some places do. Some places offer it for an additional fee. find out. Maybe you can just kind of go to, wherever you're getting your jerseys done and go, hey, this is my idea for the logo. Can you come up with something? That might be a very easy way to do it. This is also where I think using something like AI can really help out, using some of these AI image creators, because you can go, hey, I need a logo for my hockey team. This is our team name, and maybe an idea of something that you want, or the colors of the team that you're thinking of, or something like that, and have it spit out, multiple options of logos. And this is something you can either get super deep into and keep refining and refining and refining and refining it, and maybe do it yourself, or come up with a generic idea that's kind of close to what you want and send this off to someone that you're hiring out, or to the people that are making your jersey and saying, hey, this is kind of what we came up with. Can you help us, finalize it up and make it look a little bit better? This is, I think, a great use for some of these AI tools out there like ChatGPT and stuff to help you out with your logo creation. This is a great way, I think, to use some of these AI tools out there to help not completely come up with something from scratch, but give them some ideas that either you can turn over to a professional on Fiverr with an idea of, this is generally what we want, here's kind of what I would like to do different or do better, or to whoever's doing your jerseys if they have this option as well. There's a lot of places out there you can do this with. Obviously, there's like ChatGPT. Canva has some tools that'll help you out with this. Google Gemini has their thing called Nano Banana. All these things you can give it reference material or just type out something. And like I said, you can keep refining it as much as you want, or just get a very basic kind of idea of what you're trying to, what you see in your head, and have something you can easily pass along to people. So whichever option you choose, there's a lot of ways out there to get logos made. Again, you can also just copy a logo from a pro team, but we talked about the caveats of that. A couple things to keep in mind is, like I said, the simpler the logo, the better it's going to look on the jersey. No matter how you get stuff done, the easier it's going to be for them to print, and probably the cheaper it's going to be for you to get it printed, depending on what kind of jerseys you get. And like those tiny details really get tough to put on a jersey. If you have, like I said, a lot of small detail, it gets tough, especially depending on how you get your jerseys made. That can be near impossible to get done on a jersey. So keep that in mind. All right. Along with getting your logo created, you need team colors. Again, like I said, these things all kind of go together. So you need to have team colors. Probably it's what's in your logo, or something that's very complementary to your logo if your logo doesn't have a lot of colors in it. Keep in mind when you're doing this that pretty much anywhere you play, you're going to need a light jersey and a dark jersey. And by light jersey, I mean probably a white jersey. So something that's going to look good on whatever color you have for a dark jersey, black or dark blue or red or anything like that. Just some sort of a color jersey, and then a white jersey. So make sure that the logo is going to look good on that, and that there's colors you can use for it. You can be a team that just has a completely blank white jersey with a logo on it and nothing else. That's what you want to go for, sure. But if you want something that looks a little bit nicer, you have to figure out for shoulder colors and striping and things like that. So you need to have some sort of colors that, like I said, either probably come from your logo or greatly complement it with it. Generally, you want colors that contrast and look good together. I mean, there's classic options like black and gold and red and white, navy and white. What a lot of people will do is just kind of pick a NHL, AHL, ECHL, whatever league you prefer. Pick a jersey blank from one of those places and use that for their jerseys. They'll go, hey, I really like, we want black and white jerseys. So we're going to go with the LA Kings home and away jerseys because those work well with our logos. A lot of people do that. That's how a lot of jerseys are put together. And a lot of companies that make jerseys have these blanks or have the stuff set up for these blanks. You can do that no problem. So that's something else to think of. Or even just use that as a starting point. If you want to add a third color into a bottom stripe or something, but you want to use mostly what one of these teams has, it's a great way to use as a starting point. There's a bunch of stuff out there that, the colors go together well. They look good. So, hey, you have a lot of starting points to work with. use them. One caveat I do want to say when picking jerseys that I have seen, and it's very annoying, so please don't do this, is I see this more on people that have like away jerseys. So your non-white jersey, whatever color it is, don't have large swatches of white on your away jerseys. It makes it very confusing. So if you're a team that has, say, like a let's go with like a blue jersey. You have like a blue jersey is the main color for your away jersey. Great, that's a fine color. Don't have like, oh yeah, our large shoulder caps are all white, or the whole side of the jersey has a giant white stripe up and down it, something like that. Don't do that. That's just annoying for anybody that's playing against you. You can have white on your jerseys, obviously, but don't make a huge giant sea of white like that for your non-white jerseys. And by the same token, if you're having a white jersey for home jersey, don't have a huge part of, huge chunk of it be some other color. That's going to make it tough for the opponent to see. And it's just kind of a jerk move. Don't do that. All right, so we've got all the elements here of what you want to have for your jersey. We've got a team name. They gave us a logo. We've got team colors. We've got an idea of what we want our jersey base to look like. So now you have to create some jerseys for your team. Things that you have to think about with this when you go in and use jersey designers. There's a lot of jersey design tools out there. Again, you can use all the AI tools to help you come up with something. I'm going to link to as many of these things that I have used and can find that I think are useful in the show notes or over at thebeerleaguer.com. So you don't have to worry about trying to write anything down or find this stuff on your own. There's a ton of them out there. Ones that I like, I will make sure to link for you to check out.
Let me take a quick moment to invite you to head over to thebeerleaguer.com, where you can check out previous podcast episodes, keep up with all the goofy and sometimes informative social media posts, and contact the show. There's an easy-to-use contact form, a button to leave voicemails, and a newsletter sign-up. All of us here would love to hear your thoughts on this episode or ideas for future ones. Now back to the show.
So you're trying to make your jerseys now. Things you have to think about. Logo placement. Do you have just a big center chest logo? That's what most people have. Do you have shoulder logos? Are they different logos? Do you have different logos for home and away? You can totally do that. You can get as crazy as you want with this stuff if you really want to. Numbers. Most leagues require every player to have a different number on their jersey. There's some pretty standard fonts out there for numbers that people use. You can find those. Again, I'll link some very specific examples for that kind of stuff. But there's pretty standard like jersey font numbers out there that are either block black, block white, white with black outline, black with white outline kind of thing. Definitely want numbers on the back of your jersey. If you want, you can put numbers on the sleeves of your jersey. You could do that as well. I guess if for some reason you want to put numbers on the front, sure. Your jerseys, do whatever you want. Finally, kind of with the actual jersey stuff, names, a couple different ways you can go about that. You can get every jersey with like a name directly sewn on it. If you get them printed, you can have them printed with names on it. You can get separate name bars that is just like a piece of fabric that has the name on it that you somehow attach to the jerseys. You can get them sewn on, which is the professional way to do it. I have seen teams that have like Velcro sewn onto the jerseys and then Velcro on the name bars so they can replace the name bars very easily because they have a lot of people moving through the team like that. So if you want to do something along those ways and people don't want to keep their jerseys, that is an option to do that as well. I do plan on doing, in the very near future, an episode completely about jerseys, talking about the different styles of jerseys, the different printing techniques and ways they put stuff onto jerseys, kind of cost, summing all that stuff up. So I am kind of skipping over a lot of that stuff here because we're going to do a full in-depth episode because there is a lot of stuff to consider when getting jerseys printed. So we're going to look forward to that in the near future. Finally, you have to talk about if you want to get matching socks and pants, or if you want to get real crazy and have people matching, their gloves and their helmets to the team. I know teams that do that. A lot of teams do that inadvertently because everybody has a black helmet. So it just kind of works. Some teams, there are teams out there that, they want to have everybody have like the same, red helmet, because red is one of their major colors. And so everybody gets one. Think about that. I mean, that's not a decision just for you to make. That's the decision for the whole team, because everybody's going to have to buy new equipment to match this stuff. Socks, pretty standard, pretty easy to do wherever you're getting jerseys from. I'm sure you can get socks from, and you just get colors that, that match your jersey there. You can also get pants that match if everybody, again, this happens a lot of times because pretty much everybody has black pants, but you can also get covers for the pants that go over. There's a lot of, you'll see pro teams that kind of do like the goofy jersey nights. They will have, their goofy jersey that looks like, say, overalls. And then they will have shells over their pants that look like overalls. And then they'll have socks that match that as well. So that's not tough to do. With the printing techniques now, it's pretty easy to get socks any kind of way you want. But they're all going to be kind of that more modern, thinner sock, not the like thicker wool sock that you're thinking of that pretty much every hockey store, stocks tons of, that are, usually very basic. They're usually one color with maybe 2 stripes on them. That's almost every NHL team sock is like that. So those are very generic. People obviously have those, but if you guys want to have matching socks, or if your league requires you to have matching socks, you can definitely get them printed or, sewn up for whatever colors you have for your jerseys. Or if you want to have funny ones, like I said, like I've seen, the teams that I just keep thinking of the overall stuff where it looks like everybody's wearing overalls because of the jersey, and then they have the shells for their pants, and then the socks that match that. You can get all that stuff too. All that or none of that. That's a team decision to figure out how you want to do that. Because also then, every time you have new people come onto your team, they're going to need this stuff as well. So either buying extra of these things, or, making sure that you can buy a small amount of these every year is super important. So next thing up, when you're ordering jerseys, that's something you have to consider. Consider how's it going to be year to year. More than likely, you're not going to have the exact same team every year. So you're going to kind of keep this stuff together as a team and hand it off to the next people that join, and people are going to have to give up their jerseys or their socks or whatever they have, or every year you're going to order new. And can you order, 1 or 2 jerseys, or do you have to order, a minimum of 12? Some places have that. And, if you only need 1 or 2, you definitely don't want to order 12 jerseys. So something to keep in mind, and especially with the places that you are working with and talking to. Now, if you're ordering jerseys as a one-off for like a tournament or something like that, who cares? You're probably never going to order them again. But if you are doing this for a new team that is going to hopefully keep going for a couple of years, something to consider there. All right, so you got your new team. Everybody's outfitted. You're looking sharp. What else do you have to do for starting a new team? Well, as you know, here on the Beer Leaguer podcast, one of the things that we talk about all the time is team culture. And that can be all sorts of things. We talk about it on almost every episode it gets touched on. It can evolve in a lot of different ways, but if you have a new team, you can create a lot of this stuff that really helps out creating a good team culture. New teams is the time to start some of this stuff to try and build a team culture and build a camaraderie right away with everybody there. This is the kind of stuff that, one, people remember years later. This is what people will remember for things. But this is also the things that get people to want to be on your team. This is the stuff that people hear about your team doing that maybe their team's not doing, and they go, wow, I really want to be a part of that. Sounds like you guys are having fun. And it's a great recruitment tool for getting people. So don't just think that it's just a fun, goofy thing to do. It can also be a great recruitment tool for trying to get new players. This kind of culture stuff, which can seem small and seem kind of silly, is really a big deal for things to also getting people to keep coming back to the team year over year over year, and not going to other teams, or maybe just saying, hey, I don't have the time for hockey. This is the stuff that gets people committed to it, to keep, having something to go to that's not just going out and having a skate for an hour. It's, I want to go hang out with everybody. I want to go, see my pals and stuff like that. So I know we always emphasize that a lot of the stuff can seem silly, but it does make a big deal. but it definitely can make a big difference, especially for a new team. It's a great time to start it. This includes things like locker room traditions. We've talked about on these episodes before having things like Player of the Game Awards and stuff like that, that you have every game that you establish. Having things like, a group chat. I mean, it can seem silly, but can really go a long way to getting people to kind of bond over stuff. And that can be something that's just, a text group, a WhatsApp group, whatever you guys use, to have some sort of way to communicate, and talk about the games that you play and make sure people know updates and things that are going on for stuff, but also just talk about, other hockey things that they have, to send stupid memes about stuff back and forth, all these different things. It's little stuff, but all these things can really add up and help create your locker room culture. We've brought up here many times things about like post-game hangouts, whether it's in the locker room, in the parking lot, at a local bar, things like having a beer bucket also that can help people to hang out a little bit more and spend a little bit of time and, get to know each other better. Again, creating locker room culture. So this is the stuff that when games are over, seasons are done with, this is the stuff that people really look back on and talk about and the stuff they remember fondly. So it's important, I think, to set that up early versus trying to create something like that later on. Another thing that I think is very important when you have a new team is setting up a quote-unquote good locker room. And new teams, I think this is a lot easier for than for established teams to really try and do this stuff. And this can be kind of setting up not really hard and fast rules for things, but setting kind of the bar for where things are. And this can be things ranging from not talking politics in the locker room, because maybe not everybody agrees on things, and that can be a hot button for some people, to kind of what level of good-natured ribbing do you have between teammates, and who can you kind of include on that? Some people, don't know when to stop with things. Some people don't take even good-natured stuff properly. So kind of establishing that early on, I think, is super important. And especially for Beer League, this is a huge one for Beer League, is setting where the bar between being competitive and wanting to win and just being a complete dick on the ice is. There is generally a pretty large area between those two, but I think really establishing where your team is on that and what you consider being, crossing the line for things, either being not competitive and not trying, or being too competitive, or really just being a jerk out there. Really establishing that stuff early on is so much easier than it is to run into these things later and having to try and stop it and explain to people what they're doing wrong. So I think if you have a new team, it's an opportunity to establish a lot of this stuff that helps make a great culture and make for a good locker room. All right, so we've talked about all kinds of off-ice stuff, getting your first team ready. So, you're all kitted out with all your jerseys and socks and stuff like that. You've got a cool team name that you think is fun. You've got logos ready to go out there. You've established kind of your boundaries for making a good locker room. Well, what's left? On-ice stuff. Actually having an actual team that can go out there and play hockey. And really, I think the way to tackle a lot of these things is to delegate this stuff out. A lot of these things don't work well if you have multiple people trying to do them. People can help, but having one person that's in charge of a lot of this stuff, I think really makes it easier and a lot cleaner to keep track of stuff. So this is things along lines of like, who's handling money? Somebody is getting paid for you to be out there and play hockey. Somebody's paying for that ice time. Who's handling it? Is it, one person, they're handling it. They're figuring out how it's getting done. They're making sure people are getting paid. They can ask for payment however they want to, or they ask everybody to pay in installments, or asking everybody to pay up front, whatever they do. This is why it's one of those things, easier to have one person kind of be in charge of it and let them handle these things. Rosters. Who's handling the roster? Who's handling making sure you have enough players on the roster to begin with? Who's handling if you need to have fill-in people or reserves, whatever your league calls it? Who's making sure that those people are allowed to play in your league? Who's making sure that you always have a goalie? Is your goalie, if they can't make it, are they going to be the one that reaches out to other goalies? Or is it someone else that the goalie has to let know, hey, I can't make it? Does everyone use something like Bench App, which is a super popular tool for kind of managing rosters and checking in and out for games? Do you use something like that? And then someone is in charge of asking other people to make games, so you have a full roster of people to make it? Or are they just like texting someone and letting them know, hey, I'm not playing, next week or tonight? And then this person has to reach out to say that you have, the right number of people. Figuring out what the right number of people is. Does your team only want to have, 11 people on your roster, and some games you only have 9 and you're fine with that? Or does your team want to have a roster of 20 people and everybody can show up? That's something that needs to be established and kind of figured out before you start playing games. One, to set expectations for people, but also so hey, 3 people called off. Do you need to call 3 people, or is that fine? Establish these things early on. And again, this is where I think having one person kind of put in charge of this is good to have. So you have a point person on these things. When you're on game day, are you making set lines for things? Do you care? Do people just want to play like pickup style? Or do you want to set like, hey, this is one line, this is the second line, this is D pairing 1, this is D pairing 2. Do you want that? What happens if you have odd number of people and it doesn't fit into that? If you have 11 skaters, do you run 5 defensemen? Do you run 3 centers? What does your team like to do? Do you rotate wingers so you have an odd, 3 left wings and 2 right wings? Every team kind of does these things differently depending on the personnel that are there, depending on people's preferences, things like that. But again, establishing a point person on this, I think, really helps versus showing up and 5 minutes before the game scrambling to figure out what you guys are doing. And then finally, kind of the more, basic things that I think a lot of teams don't think of until they don't have somebody doing this. You need to make sure somebody's got pucks for the games, because pretty much every beer league I know, you need to bring your own pucks, so make sure you have those. And if you are doing something like a beer bucket or having beers in the locker room after the game or something like that, who's bringing those? Or is it everybody brings their own? Things like that are just good to have somebody set that is your job to do it. You can establish if it is someone's job to do certain things. Does that mean they get certain perks from it? Like if only one person is ever bringing beers, I assume they're either paying significantly less to play hockey, or people are paying them regularly, so they don't have to just pony up to buy beers every week. Same thing, if somebody's bringing pucks, does that mean they get something out of it? Or are they just being nice and doing that? So establishing these things before game number 1 just helps avoid confusion. There's going to be enough crap going on with actually playing. If you can cut out some of this stuff very quickly and have it set up so people don't have to worry about everything, you're just going to make your games a lot easier and I think a lot more fun. So there you go. All the different things I can think of that you really should consider when either starting your own team for the first time or getting on a team that is starting up for the first time. Things to think about, things you might not have thought of. Now, like I said, throughout any of the websites and stuff that I talked about, so be it jersey creators or some of these AI image tools, things like that, I'll have links to everything that I've talked about and ones that I recommend and have used down in the show notes. Or as always, with every episode, links to all this stuff is available at thebeerleaguer.com. Also, if you have anything else that I've missed about this or more insight into any of these topics, I would love to hear about it. You can always text the show with the link in the show notes. And again, available at thebeerleaguer.com. Many different ways to get a hold of the show on there. Love to hear if you have anything to add into any of the things I've talked about or other show ideas. This, and like I said, the upcoming Jersey episode and stuff has come from listener feedback, so I do listen to that. You can also leave a comment if this is on a format that you can leave a comment for. I would love to hear that, and I do read all of those. Another thing that I would love to hear from you guys out there is what's the best, or honestly, what's the worst beer league team name or jersey that you'd ever seen? I would love to hear about those. I have some fun ones that I've seen over the years. One of my favorites is when my team has gotten to go play at the Hockey North America Championships up in Toronto. There is a group of teams that always have Hello Kitty jerseys that just have a big old Hello Kitty on them, and they're pink, and they're great. They're hilarious and great, and I love those, and they're so much fun. So I'd love to hear some of the best or worst jerseys or team names or terrible pun names that you have heard or seen about that. I'd love to hear about that. All right, so remember, starting a beer league team, it is one of the most fun things you can do. You're not just making a roster of players. You're really giving people an escape from their monotonous day-to-day lives. And usually, the best and most fun teams aren't the teams that have the most success on the ice. They're the ones that have the most fun off the ice. All right, thanks a lot, everybody. I'll catch you in the next one. All right, and as promised, some of these hilarious AI-generated beer league team names. We've got Puck Luck Club, Puckin' Around, Puckin' Aces, Puck You, Puckin' Beauties, The Beerly Beloved, Brewskis on Ice, The Zambrewskis, Ice and Ales, Suds and Buds, The Last Call Line, The Broken Sticks, Midlife Crisis, The Danglers Who Can't Dangle, The Beer Bellies, The Almost Good, The Shin Pad Shufflers, The Blue Line Bandits, The Crease Crashers, The Slot Machines, The Five Hole Fellas, The Red Line Renegades, Ice Raptors, The Frozen Bisons, Arctic Foxes, Net Results, Stick Figures, The Penalty Box Heroes.
Thanks for sticking around. I wanted to let you know that we added the ability to text the show. If you check out any of the show notes for any of the newer episodes, you'll see a link called Text the Show. Just click that and it'll open up your text app of choice. There, you'll see a code automatically inserted into your text message. Please leave that there. That makes sure your message gets routed to the show properly. Add your message and just send it away. We only get to see your area code, so if you want to include your name to be mentioned, make sure you include that in your message. Give show topics you'd like to see, comment on previous episodes, tell us what we missed, or what book, movie, YouTube video we should be checking out. All the messages are seen, and most go into planning what we do next, or get mentioned in a shorts episode recapping what we missed. Thanks for listening.